Hey everybody, this is Jason Sims, and I am jumping in here to tell you that my friend Glenn Case is a talented musician, and he's got a Kickstarter, and I want you to give him money. So, Glenn, tell him about your thing.
Fittingly enough, the album is called Throw Money, but that wasn't an intentional thing. It was just a Todd Rundgren reference. But now you can throw money at the album. I'm asking for $6,000, and I made a video where I explained where all the money's going. You can go to Kickstarter.com and check it out by searching Throw Money or by Glenn Case. And it's 2 N's in my name, Glenn, and the last name is like it sounds, Casc. And I would definitely appreciate it if you go and check it out. Or check it out at glenncase.com.
And it's very well documented, and he's telling you where every penny is going to go. And I command you to empty your bank accounts and give money to this man who is a friend of mine and very talented.
And I appreciate the command.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Jason Sims Puts You in Your Place. It's a series of conversations with creative people about how the places in their lives affect them and their work. My name's Jason Sims, and guess what I saw the other day? I saw an Irish setter give a kid a high five, and that is the absolute truth. I have a witness. You can also find us online at sliceglobal.com or on the podcast tab or on iTunes. And if you have any questions or comments, or you want to call me a liar for telling you about that dog high-fiving a kid, even though it's absolutely true, you can holler at me on Twitter at Jason_Sims. That's at JASON_SIMS. Or you can email me at emailjasonsims@gmail.com. I have to put my name and everything so I don't forget it. With all that stuff out of the way, we're going to say hello to our guest, Andy Kindler.
You're a liar. Is that what you said? You didn't say liar, right?
Well, I tried to say liar. That's how
But were you doing a southern accent?
Yeah, I have a character I play.
Are you playing it now?
Yeah, I'm playing it now.
Wow, it sounds very similar to the character who calls up into the shop. So you're you're not even from the South. You're from hey, I'm actually from Brooklyn. I do this bit on the Best Show.
I'm from Iceland, actually, originally, but
from where?
Iceland.
Oh. You couldn't even say that without sounding like...
I'm from Iceland.
Iceland. But you were putting a little English on the hot dog with a liar, right?
I don't have any idea. I probably wasn't.
Well, maybe
I probably just got so angry. I probably got angry at the fact that someone was going to be calling me one, and I got my Alabama up.
Did you come up with that expression on your own?
Well, I think I reverse engineered it.
Right.
From people.
Are you on the side of what's your? I know you were going to talk, but what's your talk about me? But what's your take on the whole Brad Paisley situation?
I wasn't aware that there was one, so that may tell you what side I'm on.
You know the Accidental Racist song?
I didn't hear it.
Oh, you have to hear it then. Have to hear it.
Can I just Google Brad Paisley Accidental Racist?
Yes, okay. Because I'm getting this other side where people are saying that. I think we should talk about it later because it won't make sense. It won't make sense.
Okay.
But he wrote these things where he wrote a song basically where he has LL Cool J singing with him. But there are lines like he's claiming that he went to he's claiming that you could be an accidental racist because you could wear a Leonard Skinner shirt. You could wear a Confederate flag, what someone thought would be a Confederate flag, but it's just a shirt that shows you like Leonard Skinner. So he's saying people misinterpret. So I didn't know that having the Confederate. I never thought that having the Confederate flag under any circumstances in today's date could be considered okay.
Well, I understand. I could 100% understand someone who would say that, and I don't believe I have anything with a Confederate flag on it, but I know people who probably would that would not intend it to be offensive or racist. They would just, they would. I mean, I know people, or know of people who would make the argument that one could have such a thing without it being meant to be an affront to people. But I completely understand why it would be a inflammatory symbol, as well. But it's on some of our state flags down here,
Oh, Oh yeah, so I realize that as a Northerner, I can be very, very ignorant about everything. But the other thing, though, he has a line like, if you don't say, like LL Cool J comes on, he goes, if you don't say anything about my do-rag, I won't say anything about your red flag, which is weird. And the other one is like, if you don't say anything about my gold chains, I won't say anything about the slave chains. Or
oh heavens!
And so that's bad. So there's just, to me, it's like,
that's a weird equivocation.
Yeah, so I thought there's some of it that, but the only thing that I related to in some of the coverage, and then because basically he was lambasted, but there were other people who were saying that people are misunderstanding the South, and I think the lyrics are just bad, but I do feel very much sympathetic and understand that people in the North think they are superior. You know, they judge people on the basis of their accent and stuff. Yeah. Whereas when I grew up, I loved like Andy Griffith, and so to me, like, you know, a Southern accent to me meant somebody would start. Like when I heard you on Tom Sharpling, I was like, that fit into my image of what people are from this. I mean, I'm aware there was a civil war, but the idea that people are very
aware. We're very aware that there's a civil war.
but I always thought there were people who could be very funny with that accent too, and could be. I don't feel I judge people that way, but I think a lot of people, you know, want to judge people as not being intelligent, and they take whatever the thing is.
Right.
Where if they were from London, England, they wouldn't have that opinion.
Right. You know what this whole conversation we just had has made me happy of?
Wait, what's that?
It made me happy that I'm out of touch enough that I had no idea what you're talking about.
That's really
it's great. I mean, it's really a wonderful. It's delightful.
Well, Stephen Colbert had the greatest line because Stephen Colbert's thing was like, look, if I'm wearing a red, you know, if I'm wearing what you think is a Confederate flag, it could be I'm a Skinner fan. So Colbert says, yes, so calm down. Oh, he's talking about at the local Starbucks. He goes, I'm at the local Starbucks. So Colbert says, yes, so calm down, African-American barista.
So this is very unusual that we start the show with a little conversation like that. I'm not opposed to it. It's just unusual.
No, you can cut it out if you want to.
Oh, well, we'll find out. I don't edit this, so I'm at the mercy of Dan, the editor.
Oh, Dan, please, Dan. Dan, I beg of you. I've heard great things about you. I'm a big fan, Dan. I love the Dan Band. I'm a first Dan Taekwondo artist, first degree. I think I'm stretching now. But please, Dan, please, put the scissors away. Put the cutting tools that you would use for editing 40 years ago away.
Okay. I think you pledged your case.
Do you want to start it again as if we didn't talk about that?
No. Look, every one of these things, I was thinking about this earlier. Like it's kind of like life. They all start with me saying, and now we're going to say hello to our guest. It's kind of like being born. And they all end with me saying, I'm going to stop recording now, which is like death. But in the middle, it's just anything can happen.
I agree with that. But now I'm gonna demur. What's the word? Demur? Defer.
Yeah. Okay, so where are you, right? Andy, wait, I'm off my groove. Hold on. Okay. Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
My name is Andy Kindler. Why did I say my name is Andy Kindler like I'm a 4-year-old? My name is Andy Kindler. I'm a stand-up comedian by trade, as if I don't want to do it. It's just my trade. I'm from New York City, Queens, New York, and I'm a comedian.
So where are you?
You didn't ask me the second question, but I answered it.
Yeah, that's fine. No, it's absolutely fine. If that's part of who you are, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
So where are you right now?
I live in Los Angeles. I'm in Los Angeles.
Okay. So you said you're from Queens. Were you born there?
I was born in New Rochelle, New York, or up still. Yeah. Why don't I reveal more things I use as security questions on the internet?
Can I get your mother's maiden name?
Yes. Let me give you
your first pet's name.
For many years, and I still almost do it when I fill out an I-9 or W-12, whatever you fill out to get paid, it says maiden name. I always put my mother's maiden name in, and I have to cross it out.
So, these people are like, "What's with this guy? Has he always been a guy? Is this just old habit?" So So yeah, we won't reveal any more of your security information. So you said upstate New York.
No. I'd say even that was misleading. It's like just basically it's where Robert what was the name of Dick Van Dyke's character?
I don't remember.
Petrie.
Rob Petrie. Yeah.
Rob Petrie. It's where Rob Petrie lived.
Okay.
So it's like just over. That's like really close to. But for my whole life, I grew up in Queens.
Okay. So you were just born over there, and then you just kind of went over to Queens immediately, or pretty close after immediately.
Well, I wasn't really given a choice. They didn't ask me if I wanted to hang. We just like to hang out.
Just like being a stand-up, you weren't given a choice.
Right.
Just yeah. So that's where your earliest memories are, I guess, there in Queens.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So what was a young Andy Kindler getting up to?
Well, my early years were. I never people love New York and they want to live in New York. They're mostly talking about.
There's a T-shirt about that.
They're mostly talking about. Is there?
Yeah.
Because I came up with this other one yesterday that I thought was good. It's like New York's like an apple of some type.
Huh.
Like a large apple.
Yeah.
A large apple.
Yeah. That could catch on.
So, but when most people talk about loving New York, they talk about loving Manhattan. Mm-hmm. And I lived in Queens, so it might as well have been like in any small town in a way. Because the 4 or 5 blocks around where I lived were like very residential, nice looking home type things. Mm-hmm. But then like about 6 blocks from there was a place called La Havre, which were these terrible apartment buildings. Everything was very nondescript about Queens. So I really didn't like it that much. I started watching sitcoms early, so I wanted to be the Beaver and Leave It to Beaver. I wanted to live in these. I wanted to be a television writer like Rob Petrie. So very, very quickly, my life was a fantasy.
Mm-hmm. So that's what you got up to, was watching television and wishing you were somewhere else other than Queens.
Well, I played in the backyard a lot. I used to. I'm famous in my family, where they would look out in the backyard and I would be talking to myself from an early age. And now it's the bottom of the 9th, and Willie Mays is up at bat, and he takes the first pitch. Oh, it's outside. So I did play for hours in the backyard, like pretending I was the pitcher and the kid. All those type of things was what I did. And so I remember playing a lot, like in the dirt, that kind of a situation. But so it wasn't all TV.
How many siblings did you have?
I have a brother and a sister, and I'm the youngest.
Okay. How are you significantly younger?
My sister is 5 years older. My brother's 2 years older.
Okay. So because I was an only child, and I tended to do things like be in the backyard talking to myself. So I was just wondering if you were an only child, or you just spent a lot of time alone, or.
No. So I think maybe I over-exaggerated. No, I had a lot of time. I mean, there was plenty of sibling rivalry to keep me occupied. Although my brother, I was like a little kid. Like my friends call me Cinco de Mayo because I'm 5'5.5". So my day's coming. My holiday's coming up.
Yeah.
So I was 5'5.5". But in my senior year of high school, I was 4'11". So I was always I was always short, and I was always frightened. So I didn't get into I tried to avoid fights, and my brother was so much stronger than me that he only tortured me emotionally. Like he would do things like he did. Like here's a classic thing my brother did. He would say when you go to sleep at night, if you mess up your hair, when in the morning it'll be completely combed. Because you see people with combed hair, and then in the morning the hair is messed up. So he had me on that one. He was also kind of a sadistic sometimes. He would make he would tap on a table. He'd go, I said, "Rob, stop that. Rob, stop it." And then he would he'd look at you, look at his finger, look at you, look at his finger, as he would just be gently tapping to prove he had not stopped that.
Wow.
Yeah, but I love my parents as people.
Yeah.
So we lived in fear as kids. Now, we didn't get hit. It's almost worse. But it was like we had to follow the rules when we were. And my parents as a sideline were antique dealers. So we had weekends where we would drive 4 or 5 hours upstate into places where we couldn't touch anything.
Yeah.
And had to be rigidly at ease.
Well, antiques and kids are not a good combination.
No. Was not. I did not. it certainly did not make me become an antiques enthusiast. One of my first jokes was that I can't conduct business in my parents' house. It wasn't my first joke, but a couple of years in. But in my parents' house, I can't conduct business there because hold on a second, let me change quills. My inkwell is dry.
I had it when I was a child. My aunt and uncle had carpet in a like a den area, and I was always told that I couldn't walk on it because it was very white and very, it's immaculate and very easy to stain. And I understood that as you literally could not walk on it, like you were not no one. Like it was just that me as the dirty grubby kid was not supposed to walk on it, but I was thinking that no one could walk on it. And I used to just stand at the edge of that room and I would go, why would you have carpet that you cannot walk on? And I didn't understand this.
Yeah, and my parents, their shtick was inconsistency. So, like, you could break something, and they go, look, it's not important that you broke it, and it's just, these are things, they're just objects. As long as you told us, that's, and then 10 minutes later, who took my nail scissors? Hold on, my nail scissors, who broke it? So we became little liars in my family. We tried to cover up everything.
Well, that teaches you about life, the unpredictability of reactions to your actions.
Yes.
That gets you ready.
You sound like when I listen to you talk, when you talk to Tom, it sounds like you are. I would like to have you as a dad.
Oh, well.
I don't know if that can be arranged, or maybe that's the TV show
where I adopt you.
No, where you parent me.
Oh, I just parent you.
Yeah.
Hey, but you'd have to come to. Will you come down to Alabama and live in our house?
I would do that if it was like a 13-episode pickup.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not going to be a reality show. We'll be in a studio. It's not going to be real.
Yeah, I'm prepared. As the line from Spinal Tap says, what does it pay? When at the end of Spinal Tap, where he talks about I could be in a haberdashery.
Oh yeah, I could see myself in a.
Yeah. What size? What size? I think I have that. And he goes, would you like to do that? He goes, what does it pay?
What does it pay? So yeah, I have two sons, and you might want to contact them and find out what their experience has been.
How old are they?
They're 18 and 16.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I think of you as like 22.
No, I'm almost 40.
Well, I'm older, but my wife says stop saying how old you are. But I did a roast for Dave Foley's 50th birthday, and the one line I was very pleased with, I said, Dave Foley, I said, I have socks older than 50 because things have not gone well for me. So I enjoyed that everyone thought I was doing like the world's oldest joke. I've got pants older than that. I have shoes older than 40. Are you married?
I am. Wow. I like how this is now Andy Kindler puts Jason Sims in his place. This is.
Well, you never talk about. I never hear you talk about your wife ever.
Well, she's wonderful.
Oh man, I want your life. Your life is it. What does your life pay?
Not much.
Oh, okay, I'm out.
But Alabama has a pretty low cost of living, so.
Right, and you're raking it on the podcast now. You're into that podcast, sweet podcast money.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to depress you, Jason.
Okay, I gotta go.
I'm
Andy,
sorry.
I've got some drinking to do.
Yeah.
I forgot about. So, Queens. We were in Queens.
You were in Queens.
Here's the thing. I think you and I are both too conversational. We're just gonna keep getting each other off into rabbit trails.
Well, I do have ADD. I mean, I know it's a bit now with the comics, but I actually do have ADD. I didn't realize until I was over 50 that I had ADD. I thought it was like I didn't believe it was a real thing.
Yeah.
And then I realized, I've got it, and I've got it bad. So my mind, which on stage is not so bad, but
yeah.
But my mind does. It's very hard for me to stay focused.
Well, that's I think I'm probably nearly there. And like being here with you is like pulling me across the line,
right?
Pulling me over the edge. It's permission. So,
well, there were things I didn't even tell you that I was going to go through a whole shtick about how I have a landline, and I'm very proud of that. See, I could have spent 4 minutes on that.
Yeah, I also have a landline.
So exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. This is Landline Talk. Welcome back to Landline Talk.
I spoke to a kid. I say he's a kid. He was like older than your son, but he was like maybe 22, 23. He worked like for the Onion AV Club, and I was talking to him about a landline. He literally had no idea what I was talking about. He thought I meant like an Ethernet cable.
You should have gave him one of those Dan martial arts chops for that. He would remember.
You have a razor sharp mind. How would you remember Dan from earlier in the conversation?
It's more of a curse than a gift.
That's the show. That's the show.
More than a curse.
More a curse than a gift.
More a curse than a gift. That's it. So I get cursed, like it's magical. There's some kind of magic thing. I get cursed. We both get cursed to be like we run into each other. You see me like with my kids, and you're like, I'd hate to be your kid, and I'm like, yeah, well, I'd hate to be your dad. And then like some magical being curses us, and then that's what happens. We learn about life.
We need to raise the stakes on this idea somehow. That's the thing they say all the time.
just because it's time to say it?
Yeah, it's time to say it.
Yeah. So, Queens.
Yeah,
you grew up in Queens. You're talking in the backyard. Your psychological trauma with your family. And so when do you find out that you're a funny person?
Well, I was in a situation where my dad was hilarious. My dad's like he gets embarrassed when I say this, but he is the funniest man on the planet. My dad, and some of his material is like he does do standard lines. Like he did a joke that I probably just got about a month ago, which was you'd say see you later, and he would say not if I see you first. So now, do you get that?
Well, I've heard that my whole life.
Now, do you get it though?
Yeah, but I don't know if I get not if I see you because he's gonna kill you, right?
No.
Oh.
In other words, if he see, I don't see you later. He goes, not if I see you first. That means he will avoid me.
You. Oh, see, because I was as you were saying it, I was trying to think it. I was like, well, you know what? You seeing me first doesn't necessarily prevent me from then seeing you. I will still see you later, but I'm just gonna. Do you like how I went to murder? Like I instantly went to murder.
I'll kill you. Oh. That's so violent.
Son, I'll kill you, son.
Did you grow up in the mafia?
I did not. I'm in the Icelandic mafia, and that's why I'm in the witness protection program down here in Alabama.
So he did have standard lines like that, but then he's just so funny in the moment that it's just incredible. I mean, just even like about a year ago, he was like, I was reading some whatever it was, homeopathic literature that came to his house, and I was saying, and we don't use any technical jargon that will confuse you. And my dad goes, that's because they don't know any technical jargon. And he's like that in the moment. So everybody in my family was very funny, and the example I use, which is so weird because is that when I was a little kid, I remember like misreading. There used to be a billboard that said "Put a tiger in your tank." Yeah. And so I read it as "Pewter-tiger." So I remember as being a little kid getting a huge laugh on that, and then that, feeling the rush of that. Yeah. That was an early thing of feeling like, okay, that's a nice feeling. But because everybody in my family was funny, I took it for granted. So, and since I grew up in the 60s, I wanted to be like a member of the Beatles, and later on I wanted to be Bob Dylan. I got into music is what happened, and that kind of like took over. I was a classical violinist for a while, and I was good when I started, but then people quickly passed me, and it was an example of me transferring my problems from my parents to other. My violin teacher became my mother figure in a way, so I wanted to quit like in 5th grade, and I quit like at the end of high school. Wow. So, and then I started playing guitar. So that was my earliest stuff. Was like was music, and then in summer camp, my parents used to send me to summer camp, which people can't believe that at 8 years old I was sent away to a sleepaway camp for 2 months. 2 years. 2 years. That's another show we could pitch. Anyway, go ahead.
For you. Yeah.
So, and in summer camp, I would do like plays and stuff like that. So I kind of was always performing, but I never thought about doing stand-up until later.
So is it one of those things where if everybody in your family's funny, like you don't realize that you're kind of in this, you may not realize how funny you are if everybody's funny until you get out like in the normal world and around normals.
Yeah. Well, also, like I went to college upstate to this, and there were a lot of like Jewish kids. Like I was Jewish, obviously. So a lot of Jewish. So it was like even that was like a sheltered thing where everybody is going to be like at college and kidding around and but the other part of it is I think that people don't. If something comes to you that like my wife's a photographer, so I think she has the greatest eye, right? Well, she doesn't like me to brag about her, but she sees what she sees. So because it comes naturally to her, she doesn't necessarily see it as a special gift type of thing. Right. And I think that was what it was for me with comedy. I just it took it for granted. And I think that's I don't know if that's a lesson for people, but I think sometimes people go off into directions that they think they should go off into.
Yeah, and I think that's also why we should listen to what people tell us about ourselves, like people we trust or people who we are convinced have our best interest at heart. Not just like dudes driving down the road yelling things at you, but like when people say they see something in you that you can do, you should listen to them if you hear it over and over again. And if these people are people that don't have any reason to mislead you, you should listen to that and go with that.
Yeah, and that happened to me gradually. I mean, I took like a cold reading workshop when I first, I moved to. Well, I don't know how.
Well, let's talk.
How do you want me to go?
Well, before we leave Queens, what do you think your childhood there in Queens, kind of how that affected you and your comedy?
Well, I think first of all, I feel very culturally Jewish, even though. Lenny Bruce did some really great material about how he was always jealous of Christians because they had a specific, Jesus to relate to, whereas Jews, it was very nebulous. So I always felt like the spiritual side of Judaism I didn't really relate to because it was all like, it seemed depressing to me, very Old Testament and confusing. But the cultural stuff I related to very quickly and also felt it was hilarious. Like, I used to do a joke about it, they always say Jews can be anti-Semitic. How could a Jew, how do you end up being a self-hating anti-Semitic Jew? I say, spend 10 minutes at my temple where I grew up. Make your own decision. But there were all these different characters that but they're probably in every family, but maybe people don't see the funny side of them. But Jewish people in general and I've also made the argument that Jewish people are funny even when they're not trying to be. I always use as an example of a friend of my dad's who were watching Paul Simon did a concert in the park a million years ago with Garfunkel, and my dad's friend turns to me and goes, "That Paul Simon's okay. He's not one of those jazzed up characters in the cockamamie outfits." So like you could tell that to some people, they don't even know, it's not possible to see what's funny about that. So to me, that's the most hilarious thing in the world. And early on, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's like a whole like little, you get that guy's world like in a teaspoon with that statement.
Yeah. Just exactly. That's how he looks at the, he's seeing people as jazzed up characters. Yes. And that's how he is, this superficial way of looking at things. But like when I first started stand-up, a lot of stuff I did was based on my mom. I would say things that my mom would say, but then like just recently, about a year ago, I was visiting my mom and I walked downstairs and she says, things are looking worse for Paterno, she says. Now, of course, Paterno had died like a month before that, and they were doing an investigation. The investigation. I said, "Yeah, well, Mom, he died. He's dead. How much worse could it look for him? Are they going to yell on his grave?" So I had my mothers who would say these type of unintentionally funny things, and when I first started stand-up, a lot of my stuff was based on what my mom said, but not early did I see that so much.
Yeah.
I wasn't. But I don't know that anything specifically. I always feel lucky that I grew up in New York because I think it's like the best at times and the worst at times type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I always feel like it'd be hard to move to New York from a small town. But I always felt I had an advantage being from a big city that you kind of like all the negative things that are in there, you're used to them by then.
You're just in the water and you don't know any better.
Right.
Yeah. Did you find your college experience significant, or do you just kind of breeze through that, or?
Really significant. It was like I went to school in the 70s. Well, first of all, and let me say that a lot of the I was able to achieve. I'm going to be using code now, Jason.
Okay.
I was able to achieve through breathing exercises.
Yes.
Altered states that many friends of mine would use, like the acid and things like that, but I was able to do it with the sophisticated Eastern breathing exercises.
Yeah.
This is all for insurance purposes.
Yes, I understand.
But anyway, that
podcast law.
Podcast law, and Dan will come down with a hammer over any drug reference.
Yeah, he will cut it.
He'll cut it. And so I went to school upstate New York, right, kind of like not in the middle of the 60s, but like it was still that kind of party atmosphere.
Yeah.
And so I loved it. And not only that, I was in a band. I was in a band that had I was a Grateful Dead head kind of in the band I was in. We did original songs, but we also did Dead songs. And I was also in all kinds of plays in college, and it was unbelievable. It made the entering into the real world after it all that much more depressing. So I in fact, in my senior year of college, I remember all my friends one day, they were all walking around saying, not all my friends, but it's over, we're done, we did it. And I was like, why are you celebrating? Why would you possibly be excited that this is going to end? So it was a magical wonderland. I really loved it.
And so then you're ejected out into the cold, harsh world. Well,
I did something that, when you look back on it, doesn't seem like the right, I don't know, scary thing to do. I was afraid. My dad was a plumbing and heating contractor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny because I said to my dad, I said, you're the funniest man in the world. Why you could have done comedy. And he goes, Andy, I had the kids to support.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have kids, so it's been, when I'm risking stuff, I'm not also risking my kids. So it was like naively felt like, oh yeah, well, he could have gone to comedy, but he chose from a list of things. No, his dad had a heart attack and he had to take over his business. So he had a gas heating supply business, and he didn't want me to go into it. But I was afraid if I stayed in New York, I would end up working with him, and so I drove. I did a lot of theater at school, and the director was very influential. His name was Christopher Catt. He unfortunately passed away about a couple of years ago, but he was from Los Angeles, and he said, you should come out to L.A., and he was going to move back there, and then I just got in a Ford Country Squire station wagon and drove cross country.
Wow. And how old were you?
I was 20 going on 21. Not even 21.
So you
1979.
Headed to L.A. in 1979.
I did it again.
Your first car.
Such an idiot.
Okay, before this airs, I'm going to give you a chance to go change all your security questions. Do you want me to? In all seriousness, do you want me to?
No. Okay. That wasn't a security thing. That was an age thing. That's my wife saying. Gotcha. My wife's point is, don't point out your age every 7 seconds.
I thought it was like my first car. And I thought it was going to be like that. That was.
If you want to get into my ATM, you put in Ford Country Squire station wagon, back window doesn't work, permanently busted.
Yeah.
1979, and then you're in. So I drove out with a girlfriend who didn't like me anymore, which is it was a girlfriend who literally said that I wasn't allowed to talk to her until I got up in the morning.
Wow.
I mean, until she got her coffee in the morning. Obviously, don't talk to her when she's sleeping. She goes, don't talk to me until after my first cup.
I was starting to say, I think I know why she didn't like you.
Oh, I can't talk to you from a dead asleep?
How else am I going to influence your mind if I don't whisper into your ear while you're sleeping? So you're having a very awkward cross-country drive, I would.
It was terrible. In many ways, it was terrible because we broke up when we got out here, and then she went back to New York. But it was an amazing trip, though. I mean,
oh yeah.
But the thing that's I really had no money. I mean, my dad helped me out and things. I mean, I really feel like, when people talk about people, the whole right wing, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and it's like I can't imagine. I don't know. I can't imagine where I would have been if I hadn't had people who actually financially pulled my bacon out of the fire, or whatever the expression is. So I felt very thankful that that I wasn't that I grew up middle class, and but I didn't have any money in the bank, and I came out and had no plan except to do something, like with music or theater, but I wasn't thinking of stand up. So I just came right out and just got into day jobs.
So how long were you out in L.A.?
I never moved back.
Oh, okay. Here's the thing. For some reason, I thought you had gone back. I don't know what I'm thinking.
You know why I think that is because I used to go and perform in all the New York clubs in the 80s and 90s, and I was from New York. So people generally think I'm from New York, and I would stay with my parents in Queens, and I would go into the city and do gigs. And so I think a lot of people might think that that's what the deal is.
And you just kind of have that New York mystique about you.
I do, but I always feel like my accent's not like crazy over the top, right?
No, not over the top. It's right at the top, but it ain't over the top. No, it's fine. I mean, I can tell, but it's not. No, it's not.
It's not annoying.
No, except when I'm trying to sleep.
Yeah, really. It's terrible.
Other than that, no, it's fine.
So I stayed, and I was very depressed too because post-college was just terrible. I mean, there's no way to prepare somebody for now that you have to get a job, and I knew I wasn't going to go to law school, or, there were things I knew I could do that I just did not want. I never wanted to take a test again, and
right.
And I also drove cross country, saw all these amazing things, and came up through San Diego and Laguna Beach. I ended up in L.A., and L.A. was depressing to me. I love it now, but it was depressing to me at the time because it's so sprawling. And then and I visited San Francisco, and so so much of the first 10 years I was out here, I wanted to be in San Francisco or in a beach community, or going to summer camp when I was a kid. A lot of things I didn't like about it, but one of the things I loved about it was being out in nature. So I always thought of myself as living in a small town somewhere with beautiful surroundings and a lot of money. Have you ever gone on the 17-mile drive up near San Francisco?
I have never been out that way.
Well, I knew that you had, and I just want to make you feel bad.
Oh, no, thank you.
It's where the Pebble Beach is. Have you ever lit
a cigar with a $20 bill? No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Jason, have you walked down the Champs-Elysees with arm in arm with three ladies? I guess that would require a third arm. I don't know what voice this is, Jason.
You can get a third arm if you're rich.
That's right. The world is my oyster, Jason. I don't know why that would be a positive.
You're a liar.
You're a liar. You did not did not see a dog. This is why I never get cast as a Southern guy. Jason. Hi, Jason. Instead of emailing you, I thought I would call you and say, you're a liar. My name is Liar? You're lying. You're lying, Jason.
You're lying.
This part, I would cut this part out.
This is going to be the entire interview will just be this. Will just be that section. Anyhow, so you're talking about going up to San Francisco.
Yeah, and so beautiful there. So I wanted to live there. But now I'm glad because I love Los Angeles. The reason why I love Los Angeles, I make this argument to everybody, is that nobody in Los Angeles is walking around saying we're the greatest city. And, nobody can be, everybody here has heard all the insults, and also everybody from all over the world comes here to escape wherever they were. So I love it here, but not when I first came here.
And you think that was just because of maybe the situation you were in, having to getting started and being in a strange place and not getting to be in nature?
Yeah, and the thing about it was that I knew that I wanted to do something. I mean, at that time it was all about music. So I came out and I was in bands, but because, I'm sure you would agree with this, or most people would agree with this. Like, when you're in your early 20s, there's so many, like that. I love that Bob Dylan song. I was so much older then. I'm younger than that now. That song is so perfect about how you think. It's not even that you think you know everything, but I could not have seen. I was so hard on myself. So, like, I wanted to be. I was a singer, a songwriter, and I played guitar, and I wanted to be in bands. But because I was so scared about making a living, I ended up being in cover bands. Mm-hmm. Because the theory was we'll play in bars at night doing our covers, and in the day we'll write our originals, or we'll get the originals into cover music. I mean, it's just like it was the wrong way to approach it. Like, if you were a stand-up comic, you would just know to go to open mics. You wouldn't. Right. But as a musician, then I didn't know what to do, so I was very depressed because I didn't see any future. And the other thing was I had terrible day jobs. Like, later on, about in the mid-'80s, I became a waiter and a bartender, which I loved. I loved it. I mean, I could see myself doing it again. I mean, kind of like one of the things that keeps you going is knowing that I'm not like depressed, but it's like that job I could do. I loved that. I loved it. It was so, and some people hate that job, but I was like, I sold door to door for 2 years, which was terrible.
Yeah, it sounds terrible.
And I did phone sales, and I sold stereo. So I had a whole series of jobs I didn't like too much. And so when I first came out here, I really was as close to being, like, not clinically depressed, but just depressed a lot.
Mm-hmm. And you're separated from everything you've known and everyone you've known, and I can imagine that would be pretty hard.
And then in 1988, I'm so lucky. Like, my mom is still alive, my dad's still alive. I've lost grandparents, but I've been very lucky in terms of losing people. But when I got out here, like in 1980, it was when John Lennon got shot. And for some reason, well, I mean, obviously he was. I loved the Beatles and I loved him, and that just really made things dark for me because then Reagan got in. So it just seemed like when I think of that period before I got into the Talking Heads, I was very depressed. And I took the Lennon thing as almost the death of the world kind of a thing. So it was a very rough, I thought it was a rough few years there. Yeah,
I could see that. I mean, in your whole, I mean, the world's very small for you when you're that age, and it's kind of like very focused in around yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, and you also don't see any way out.
Right.
Right. And again, I knew I couldn't do something like law school or a doctor or but even something, and even now, when a lot of people went into, like, a lot of stand-ups from the 80s went into sitcom writing, and sitcom writing can be amazingly lucrative, but I just couldn't see myself being in an office or being in an office environment, and so and it's not even like I'm better because I stay as a stand-up. I just am lucky that I loved stand-up so much, and that's why I feel blessed about that I have something I really do actually love, even though there's ups and downs, but it's something that I never get bored doing, and that you're good at. You're good at it. Well, thank you. I feel that way. I mean, I know. I mean, it's like it's the difference between being like an egomaniac and someone goes, okay, I know I can. This is something that is natural for me. But I didn't feel that way about. I was very hard on myself as a musician because I didn't have. I had a voice more like Dylan than I had like a American Idol voice. So I mean, I got a lot of abuse. I always use this story as a seminal story that I was in a heavy metal. I was in a band called Transfusion, which we thought meant we were going beyond fusion, but we couldn't even play fusion. But everybody thought we were a heavy metal band, and we got booked in this place, and they hated us. And I kept trying to get the crowd to laugh, and the club owner passed up a note, and the note said, "Cut the chatter."
Now it's all about the chatter.
Now it's all about the chatter.
So, when did you? I mean, this is probably I try to avoid like the territory that everybody's had to cover 100,000 times in interviews. So
I don't know. None of those things ever. You do whatever you like.
Well, I'm just saying. So how do you get off the music train and get onto the stand-up train?
Well, this was very fortuitous. I had a very fortuitous. I like that word. Come on, let's not kid ourselves. I had a very something cool happen was that I was working in a stereo store back in the days where people would go in and you'd buy a stereo, but you'd have to bargain on the price, and it was just. I feel terrible for anybody who had to purchase electronic equipment back in those days. And a friend of mine, his name is Bill. I was at like a company picnic, and I was just doing impressions of everybody at the picnic and everybody who worked for the company. But again, came naturally. This is what I do anywhere I am, at any party, and I always have to watch it too, because I always have to say, am I getting into Robin Williams syndrome territory?
Right.
And he said, hey, you're funny. You should try. Have you ever thought about trying stand-up? And I never had. I came out to the Comedy Store when I first came to L.A., and I had a great time, but I just didn't connect it. I said, that sounds like a good idea. So I was lucky that he kind of egged me on to do it, and that he wanted. We did it. I did it with him for like 2.5 years. We had a duo called Andy and Bill. And it was kind of a cool thing to do because it's so frightening to first start stand-up.
Yeah.
And this kind of like cushioned the blow. I could blame him when things didn't go well.
And how long ago was that?
84 through the summer of 86, and then the summer of 86, and we're good friends to this day. But he was getting mad at me because I would. Well, first of all, this is not. This is something that I think that anybody who knows me would expect. Is that I would bail on the bits very quickly. So, you're not supposed to do that in a duo so much. And then I would also riff off the crowd, and he started to get mad, and I just realized that. But it was a natural thing. It wasn't like we had a big breakup.
Right.
I realized that it'd be better to do it on my own. Then summer of 86, I just started doing it, and I happened to start in a time that was a comedy explosion type thing. So
the brick wall explosion.
Error.
Yeah. The error.
So from 87 to 92, I was on the road. I was 40 weeks a year, 30 weeks a year doing stand-up.
Wow.
So
and here you
amazing.
are. Here you are today. Getting ready to be in a sitcom with some unknown guy from Alabama. This is where it's all led.
This is it. I'm taking it to. I'm always taking things to another part of the same level.
Right. a lateral level.
Yes, anybody can go up and down, but do I really know this area that well? Isn't there more to explore
fully
sideways?
Explored. You're going to fully explore both sides.
I want a Statue of Liberty, my life.
So what's your relationship with? I mean, you still go out. I guess you still travel around, and you're going back and forth across the country, coast to coast. What's your relationship with LA like now?
Well, my relationship is that I'm a renter, and it's so weird because a lot of times, like a couple of times, when I've been like on on a TV show, like if I don't want to promote that I'm on Letterman, but why not mention it? But like if I've been on, like I did a bit once on Letterman show about how I didn't, my young comedian special, they played it, but I didn't get the residual. I hadn't gotten my residual, so I'm on the phone seeing where my residual is. And the joke basically was I don't see like Janine Garofalo doing that, or she was on the same. I recently looked back at this spot and I realized I really didn't explain it well. But the general thing is that people think if you're on TV, you're probably making money.
Right.
So when I complain about money, it doesn't usually ring well for people. But I've been the struggle seems to never end. So I always feel like I'm struggling. But I'd like to have like a home that I own. Mm-hmm. But I do love living here. I mean, I love Los Angeles. I live on the West Los Angeles. Now,
how is West Los Angeles different than rest Los Angeles?
Well, that's the thing that's I think very hard about LA. It's like if you flew into Seattle or you fly into Vancouver, you go, oh, let the magic begin.
Yeah.
We're going into the second part of The Wizard of Oz. You fly into Los Angeles, you're flying into what looks like pea soup. Mm-hmm. So it's very hard to get a sense of the character of the city. And now that I live here, though, if I was to tell you, West Los Angeles, I mean, the thing that would be most exciting about it is that it's on the way to the beach. Mm-hmm. So like Santa Monica Boulevard, which I don't live far from, goes from the beach all the way to, maybe not New York, but it goes pretty far east. And so the thing that's confused about Los Angeles is all these different areas, and there's a million different little areas, and the ones that are like hipper, quote hipper, like Silver Lake, but they're hard to describe because you can't really describe them, except for the landmarks. You can't really describe them geographically. But what I like about here is that there's always stuff going on. There's always people doing shows or doing one-man shows, and it's not defined by one genre. It's not just film or just TV. It's all kinds of stuff. So I think I like that part of it. I'm the kind of guy who answers a question but gives no information in the answer. No useful information.
Well, that's kind of your thing, along with the lateral move.
Right.
The lateral move and the it's sort of like the pea soup, the fog of L.A.
Is me.
Is you. You are the living embodiment.
Yeah, you say to me, tell me something about West Los Angeles. And I say, Silver Lake, you got your Glendale. What am I saying? I'm making...
These are not even real places, are they? You're just stringing words together. Because I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. Were you into the New Riders of the Purple Sage?
The New Riders, well, somebody ride. Okay, I don't want to say it because I don't want Dan to have to get the rights. Somebody rode the Glendale train. No, I don't. Is that a band? The New Riders of the Purple Sage? Yeah. Okay, they were like around the. Did you remember a group called Olden in the Way? They're kind of like Grateful Dead offshoot type of band. Yeah. So Glendale, there's actually Glendale where there's a train that ran through it, and supposedly there's history out here. Allegedly. But my wife is from a little town called El Centro, which is 4 hours east of San Diego, and it's a big farming community there. It's the valley. They call it the Valley over there. Yeah. And so and I know there's a name to the valley, but I'm not kidding. It's not the San Fernando Valley. Right. Just a different valley. Yeah, it's not that far from that. Susan, what's the name of the valley that you grew up in? Imperial Valley. That's what Imperial Valley. Yeah. So she is like a Californian, and so what was the question again? How did I get into her? Why did I bring her up? Why did I drag her into this? Because you were talking about, I accused you of making these place names up. Oh, and you were giving evidence to clear your name from the way I was playing. Kind of. Yeah, but I think I was going off on something. But but through her eyes, I could also appreciate things about LA that I know what I was going to say. Like she went to the old like her dad took her to the old Hollywood places like Musso and Frank's. Mm-hmm. And what's that restaurant, the something and the something that you used to go to? The Cock and Bull? Yeah, the Cock and Bull. So she actually went to the old Hollywoody type places. There's a place called Dantana's, which is a famous Italian restaurant. So through her eyes, and I've seen and her grandfather was and it was from Los Angeles. Sold because her dad was a lettuce farm, but her grandfather sold melons and sold melons door to door. But so when you hear about Olympic Boulevard and how originally went to the Olympics and all this kind of stuff, that I'm mixing up. I'm just saying there is a rich history here. Yeah. If anybody would want to, I could be the kind of guy who talks a lot about something, a subject, that gets you excited about it, then you do the work. This is like a very, a lovely, clean Burroughs cut-up poem. Exactly. without any drug abuse or capital punishment in it. Yeah, here's what's West LA like? I'll tell you what it's not like. It's not like East LA. It's not like Southern LA. That's what I provide for you. Yeah. So Andy Kindler, ambassador of Los Angeles. But when I first came here, the things that do no longer depress me were depressing to me. There's a lot of strip malls out here. Mm-hmm. And I hated those when I first came. I'm not saying I'm in love with them, but I'm more used to that. It's like nobody should move here thinking it's going to be majestic or whatever, but then there's all this type of architecture that is kind of beautiful once you look at it, but it doesn't it's not colonial, doesn't grab you by the throat like the colonial. I wish I could even be reading a book that had information while I was talking to you. Andy, this has been very delightful. This has been a very... there's been a lot of different things about this episode. Number one, I think this is the first time we've had someone yelling from off the from off the phone, which is something that I have to do all the time when I'm talking to people. I have to stop and ask my wife things because I have outsourced a lot of my memory and human, just adult responsibility to her.
Well, that's what I think people are going to appreciate about this. Like, you don't get enough ambient sound in most of your shows.
No, listen, did you hear any sort of anger or regret in my voice?
No. I'm just trying to pitch it. Well, I'm a huge fan of you. I love this. When you talk on the Tom Sharpling show, I just love it. Well, I love it, and you were. I think of you. I could ask you anything. Like I could say, and then you would just be able to give me with that Southern style. You would charm the pants off of anyone. That's my image of you.
Well, thank you. Me surrounded by charmed pantsless people.
Yeah, this is the thing. Even me trying to give you a compliment sounds like with no information.
You've not told anybody anything about me.
Jason, you know what I love about you is that, and then the Southern, and you got the thing, and I almost pulled out Andy Griffith as a reference again, but I stopped myself.
Well, that's a good place to stop.
Okay, but let me ask you a question though. Before we stop, do you know who Jerry Clower is?
Yes, I do.
Okay, now who is he? I don't know who he is.
He is a sort of Southern comedian from Yazoo, Mississippi, who would tell stories about his youth in rural Mississippi about these guys he hung out with, the Marcel, and it's back there. It's all buried in my head. I can't remember. But
see,
anyway.
That's the thing. That's what I meant to say. That I could get that you are a human being historian. That's what I'm going to say. These are all things you can use later to promote the show.
Yes. There'll be a thing in every episode where you ask me a thing. You'll say like, Daddy, tell me about such and such, and I'll do it.
You know what else is going to make this a great bonus podcast in the future? That? Is that me not letting you get off the phone. That's also going to be my hook.
This is the longest episode. Now we're in our third hour.
Yeah,
I can tell you used to be in a jam band.
This part right now is similar to what the drum solo would be.
Yeah. So, Andy,
this is wonderful.
We're now at the point where I'm going to let you plug anything you want to. You can be as vague and give us as little information as you want to about these things. It can be your thing. It can be somebody else's thing. It can be whatever you want.
Well, I'd like to plug your podcast. It's fantastic, so I think people should listen to that.
I don't know if anyone who's listening to it has ever listened to it.
Oh, that's true. Maybe I'm wrong target audience to get people to know about your podcast. Well, I'm going to be on Marc Maron's new show. It's called Maron. It's on IFC. I play Andy Kindler, so it's a nice fit for me.
Did you have to do a lot of research?
I did. Unfortunately, I came up with a fake history of me, which they didn't want. I was a sailor. I was a pirate.
Like a Somali pirate?
Yes. And I talk in an Icelandic accent. So that's coming up in May. I don't know which episode I'm on. I used to say, and I've gotten better at promoting this, I used to say I'm a recurring character, and I realized, why am I telling people that I'm not a regular on a show? Why can't I? So now I say, instead of saying I'm a recurring character, and then people go, what the hell is that, or why isn't he a regular? Now I'm just saying, I'm the voice of Mort the Mortician on Bob's Burgers. Doesn't that sound better?
Yes. That's there's some confidence in that, the way you said that.
I also should be on Letterman pretty soon, is my guess. And also coming to a town not near Alabama.
That's stipulated.
I would love to come. Isn't that where my hero Joe Namath is from?
He played football here.
He was from Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania.
Okay, he played football here.
For Bear Bryant.
Yes.
So I would, if there's going to be a corporate gig, a Bear Bryant corporate gig.
The Bear Bryant Corporation.
Yeah, but otherwise, if you go to AndyKindler.com, and the thing that's great about AndyKindler.com, never changes, always the same, no surprises. It's static. A lot of these things with the Flash, you can count on my Andy can look up. But the best way to find out what I'm doing, if you want to see me, is the Twitter, because I can't stop Twitter.
Right. It's compulsion.
Yeah.
Well, Andy, thank you so much, sincerely.
Thank you, Jason.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No,
I have such a terrible manners of phone etiquette.
It's hard. It's hard to navigate that. So you go ahead.
I would say it was really a pleasure because we've been trying to do this for a couple of months.
Yes, and I've really been looking forward to it.
And I felt bad that we didn't hook it up, as we used to say in the 80s.
Well, we did it. We finally did it. It's over. We did it.
I'm very happy, and when it gets edited down to a 4-minute piece, I'm going to be thrilled.
Well, you and I will know the magic.
What happened.
Yeah, we'll know what happened. Okay, I'm going to stop recording now.
Okay.